You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. Before you get the rest of the story, I'd love to share a quick message from today's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss, one of the leading CRMs, client relationship managers for residential real estate. Tons of top producing agents and some of the fastest growing teams out there are using Follow Up Boss to increase lead conversion, eliminate busy work that you're not doing anyway, and frankly, deliver a higher class experience in real estate to everybody who chooses you as their realtor of choice. So if you're going to keep listening to this, which I know you will, there's more information and a personal review of Follow Up Boss. For more information, go to followupboss.com/crazy. Hello, friends. I'm Leigh Brown, and you have landed on Crazy Shit in Real Estate, where frankly, every episode is something that I don't expect, you don't expect, but here we are. Today, we're going to talk to Kris Reid. He is the master of e-commerce. Going to change your perspective a little bit on websites and what you need to be thinking about as an entrepreneur in that space. So get your notepad ready because I wrote down a bunch of stuff myself, and I'll see you on the other side. Kris, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on here. And for all of our viewers and listeners, Kris is coming into us from Vietnam. So thank you for doing that. And give us a little bit of background on who you are and what we should know about you before we dig in a little bit.
Sure. So you probably can tell I don't sound too Vietnamese. I'm originally from Brisbane, Australia, and I help businesses stay in business. The uncomfortable truth is that most businesses fail, and they fail for the problem is they can't get enough customers. It was the founder of Google, what's his name, Larry Page, that said, revenue cures all problems, and it really does. And so we get your message in front of your ideal customer and help you predictably grow your business.
So you're probably glad to actually be in Vietnam and not Brisbane right now, because we're recording this in September of 2021. And isn't it wild that Vietnam has fewer restrictions than Australia?
That's not the truth. Vietnam was lucky enough to be pretty COVID-free most of this pandemic, but then they locked the borders. It snuck in, and we have really, really strict. We're not allowed to leave our house.
But are they confiscating your alcohol now? Because you saw that happening in New South Wales.
We got a message that if you get hungry, you call the army and they'll come and bring you food.
Has common sense left the world that we don't know how viruses work?
Yeah, it's crazy town. Such is life. Hopefully it'll disappear one day. It's a really good time to be working online anyway.
It is. And actually, this is the kind of a scenario in a market when entrepreneurism becomes the most attractive option ever, because people do get really, really constricted when they're under somebody else's rules. And a true entrepreneur has a hard time living under anybody else's rules. So now we have people thinking more creatively. They're finding new sources of revenue, new businesses, and as you mentioned, more customers in a changing global environment. So what would you say about your space and what you're doing for leadership of entrepreneurs in a COVID era when movements are restricted and the government overreach in every country is something to behold, but it's also encouraging a lot of people to say, now's the time.
2021 was by far our biggest year ever, and 2022 is set to be even bigger. It's really amazing. It's a fabulous time to be working online. It's a really great time to be working online. The pandemic has forced everyone to double down. I know there's companies in Australia like Harvey Norman that is this old school retail company. They've been forever trying to petition the government to put taxes on people working online. And there's another newer company that has a really good online presence. And during this pandemic, they've grown really, really significantly, where Harvey Norman's had all their shops shut, so they haven't. So if you've got a web presence, like the best time to build a website was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now.
I mean, it's true. So in real estate, I have this argument with realtors all the time. They say, but I don't need a website because I'm not as big as a Zillow or a Realtor.com or one of the big boys. And I explain to them that if nothing else, your website is your digital calling card and a business card so that somebody can verify
that you are at least real and credible, because I know I use the internet to verify a company and see if they're real. What's the address? What's the bricks and mortar? What's the customer experience? So when I face that opposition from real estate professionals, they're acknowledging that it's a very crowded space. And of course, the COVID era has made internet commerce not just crowded, but insanely packed. What would be the strength of somebody that's able to cut through that noise? How do you make it work in a space where everybody has suddenly gone there and you have to find your voice in your space?
Yeah, I mean, building a website, if it was really cheap and easy to do, then everyone would be doing it. It takes a significant investment. To get a website that's really humming, don't go to a web designer. Web designers will charge you 20 grand, build your website that generates you zero business. What you need to do is go to a marketer that knows how to get a website in front of people, because even the ugliest website in the world will convert if it gets enough traffic. The whole thing is getting your message in front of people. It's like you can have beautiful business cards. If they sit in your desk drawer, they're useless. It's the same as a website. It needs to be in front of people. So just to give you an example, one of our clients, her name's Avery Carl. She's a pretty big deal now. She sells short-term vacation rentals. In 2019, this is going off the top of my head because I just love her story. She sold 53.
Realtors make up stuff all the time and assume that nobody will ever fact check them.
She sold 53 million in real estate in 2019 and 158 million in 2020. Like, that is some significant growth. And I'm grateful that she says a fair chunk of that is down to the website that we built it. It cost $50,000. Like, that's a fair chunk of change, but you think her take home from that's a couple $1 million? Like, give me 50 grand, I'll make you 5 million. Like, that's a pretty damn good return. So that's the power of having a website.
Well, and it goes into you get what you pay for. If you go to Fiverr, you're going to get Fiverr results. And I have never had good success on that website. And to all of y'all that have, congratulations. That place has just, I've tried, I give up. But you think about it, with people do try to spend less and think they can cut corners, but the internet presence right now, you can't cut corners there. So what would you say are the biggest mistakes that you see on websites, and ideally real estate related, but in general, anybody who's trying to create their presence online? Where do people screw up?
Yeah, I mean, really, web design is where people screw up, that they go and hire a web designer. And generally, I mean, we work a lot in the real estate space, whether it's with realtors or multifamily syndicators, whatever. And a lot of the time, they got beautiful websites. Sometimes they'll even have a nice lead magnet, but generally they just have no traffic. Sometimes it's even really quite big names. All they rank for is their brand name, because they haven't done any keyword research and built content and built up their authority rank for other things. What you really need to do, the 4 steps of building a great digital marketing campaign. First is you need to identify exactly who your customer is and work out what they're searching for. It's kind of easy if you're looking for a realtor, or if you think about if your toilet's broken, you know that you need to hire a plumber. But a business that's more nuanced, say like a multifamily syndication company, people might not be looking directly for you. They might have just inherited a whole bunch of money and they've got their first time, they've got $50,000 on their hand. And they're like, oh, what's the best way to invest $50,000? And that's your ideal customer. So you work out what is the problem that they're searching for. Then you need to structure your website, show Google that you're a trusted authority. The internet's really, really big, and Google's trying to weed out the crap. So you need to show that you're trustworthy, which is a whole nother can of worms. Then once you've got someone to your website, you need to have what's called a lead magnet. And so a great one for realtors is the best things about your town. Why do people actually move to your town? And you have here's a relocation guide, the 5 best restaurants, or the things that you need to do when you come to this town. Download our free guide. Now that's your lead magnet. They give their email address and phone number. You give them the cool guide. Then they download it. And they're like, wow, this lady really knows what she's talking about. And then you have an email nurture campaign, and that's where the money's at, because that's what filters out the crap and gets people to actually understand what you're doing. So to put that into real terms, so say we're talking about a multifamily syndication company. Generally, $50,000 is the minimum investment. So a great keyword is how to invest $50,000. So you have a really nice article about how to invest $50,000. They read the article and think, wow, this person's really knowledgeable. Well, there's 5 different ways, and the best one happens to be multifamily syndication. Then you have a nice pop-up that pops up and says, hey, download our guide of the 5 biggest mistakes people make when getting started with investing. That's your lead magnet. And the more that it's tied to whatever the article they're on, the better it's going to convert. Now you have that person as a lead.
Okay. So I told y'all that I would do a review of Follow Up Boss, because I'm your friend in real estate. And I did. Now, there's a blue million CRM out there. I mean, if you go to any Facebook group, every realtor's like, which one should I use? Which one should I use? And you know that these CRM, which are client relationship managers or customer relationship manager, whatever you want to call it, it's truly a system that's just designed to help you know what to do next, because you're very busy and you're a multitasker in real estate. And with all those different tasks and balls up in the air, you need something to help you stay on track. And that's what Follow Up Boss does. Now, when you save a name and a phone number in there, that is basically a Rolodex. Follow Up Boss is going to take the names and phone numbers and also help you know what to do next. So you can maintain these relationships with your neighbors, because that's what this is about. Real estate is not about serving just prospects and clients. It's about taking great care of your neighbors' needs in real estate. And if you'll use a tool like Follow Up Boss, where they remember you, they might even call you when they're ready to buy or sell again, or when their mom and daddy do, or their best friend or their kid, and you want to be top of mind, that's what a product like Follow Up Boss will do for you. Truly, it's going to change your business when you start paying better attention to people. They don't have to know you used Follow Up Boss, but they'll totally understand that they are being heard by you. So now there's a free trial for my people because you're loved. Go to followupboss.com/crazy. No credit card is required. And frankly, because you're my people and we made an ask for you, Follow Up Boss said, yes, you get double the free trial. That's actually enough time to log in, put some pieces in it, and watch it change your business as it has for so many realtors and teams nationwide. Again, go to followupboss.com/crazy to start your free trial today.
They download the lead magnet, they read it, and they go, wow, this is a really great guide. And then you send them an email nurture campaign. You can say, hey, listen to me on this podcast, or look at this deal that we did last year, or look at these other people that we've changed their life. And they start understanding what you do. Because especially when you've got 100 leads coming in a day, you can't call each one of them. You need to filter it through. And so you only want to be speaking to people that already understand what you do. And so you're sending them information, building up your authority, and letting them understand that when you jump on a call with me, you're going to have to give me $50,000. And so then you send them a link, book a call. They already see you as an authority. They understand what you do. So you have that call and man, you're going to close that deal. So that's the 4 steps to build an awesome digital marketing campaign.
Okay, so let's dive into one thing there in specific that I fuss at realtors about all the time. They are allergic to using video because they are so panicked about what they look like or sound like or what to say. But how important is video, especially in that sector you're talking about where you're trying to be the expert on your area or on your niche and explaining? So, for example, the 5 best restaurants in town, what's the power difference in Google and in results with 5 videos versus 5 static paragraphs?
Yeah. So, I mean, different people like different things. So it's better to have both. And generally, if you can have an amazing video that's produced in Hollywood and costs you $100,000 to make, then fantastic. But if your budget's not that restricted, then a smaller video, heck, you walking around. Yeah, exactly. Walking around with your iPhone, making a video yourself. No one's judging your realtor skills on your video making. It's like I make videos. Our sales process, we do video reviews of people's websites. So if you go to our website, ardorseo.com/review, you can get a video review where we look at your website, look at your market, and show you a bunch of things. We just record them on our videos, share screens, and talk, and you'll see my webcam. And the cinematography is not amazing. People aren't judging that. They're judging what you're talking about. And so if you're showing that you're knowledgeable about your town, your area, and that you're a real person, then people trust you. If you look too glamorous and too fake, then it can also not convert. Like whenever we're working with handymen that are building roofs or fixing toilets, it's like, show some real videos of you on a roof. It doesn't need to be, no one's looking for a Hollywood budget. They're looking that you actually know how to fix a roof.
So you've done a lot of work with real estate agents, and obviously you've done real estate yourself in different countries. So of course our podcast is all about the crazy shit in real estate and the things somebody expects. I'd love to know what you've experienced as being somebody who's not in the U.S. market, because let's just be honest, U.S. market tends to think it's the only market on the planet. But when you go to other countries, it's fascinating how different real estate operates. And in fact, I've been in Vietnam a couple of times to teach agents, and to be a part of that market. And I'm fascinated by how the Vietnamese agents really would like to have US dollars coming in, but it's a challenge because of the land ownership and how that relationship goes to the government and who owns what, which is very unknown to the typical anybody, but especially the typical US agent. So I'd love for you to share what you've learned and what was fascinating to you. And of course, crazy is very subjective, but my audience loves a good story. So what you got, Kris?
Sure. I'm lucky enough that pretty much all of our clients are in the US. So I make US dollars and I live in Vietnam and spend Vietnamese dong, that's
a pretty good setup.
Yeah, I like it a lot because your dollar stretches a pretty long way here. Like whenever I go to the US or Australia, I'm always like, oh my God, everything's so expensive. This is crazy. Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty good. But one thing that is so different here, because Vietnam's somewhat of a closed economy, so the rich, powerful Vietnamese own, like a few people own a lot of the country, and they can't really get their money out the country because no one wants dong outside of. It's pretty hard to convert your dong into dollars to go the other way. And so they have so much money and it's stuck in the country. And so they buy a lot of real estate. And the real estate is really overpriced here, especially on the rental returns. Like you're just crazy if you want to buy a place. Like if you're a normal person that needs to get a mortgage, you're looking at 10% interest, which is pretty high to start with. And if you were going to get a place as an investment to rent out to other people, then you're going to spend way more money than you would in the US and not get the same return. So it's not a very good country for real estate.
But people still own it, and there's still a lot of growth, especially in the touristy areas and where there's been a lot of new construction, and we're seeing some changes to the market. So at what point do you think it becomes the country that you and your family invest in personally?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some crappy deals ourselves in real estate. So I don't know that we want to do that again. We're kind of licking our wounds from the last place that we bought. Commercial real estate is certainly a different game. You go to Da Nang in the middle of the country and there's all of the big hotel brands around the world are building massive hotels there. So I don't know enough about that market to really comment, but there's certainly big hotels going up. So it must be a good place to invest.
Which, by the way, guys, when there's something that's really big and you're not sure about it, that's why you look at multifamily syndication. So if you're not familiar with that, check out several of our other episodes where we've talked to some syndicators, because that means you're mitigating your risk while you take advantage of big opportunities, but you're also not going to have the giant returns, but trading a little risk for a little return is often works for a lot of people. All right. So did y'all ever own property in Brisbane? Are you Australia property owners, or were you renters there?
I have not lived in Australia since I'm just a little boy. Pretty much I finished university and ran away.
So tell me, let's see, if you've worked with realtors, what's the wildest thing you've seen them doing, whether it's something they were doing wrong or something they did right or something that just stuck out to you?
So how I got into the whole real estate game is a client of ours, he somehow knows Reid Goosen. And he said, hey, you should be on Reid Goosen's podcast, and introduced me. And that was the first real estate podcast I was ever on. And then we did some work together. And I went, wow, this real estate market is amazing. Like, how much do you people in real estate make? Oh, my God. And like, especially.
It's not what they make, it's what they're willing to spend, because real estate people, they are willing to spend to get the image, and then they kind of pray the sales catch up with it.
Yeah. But generally what we find is it's just, the value per client. I mean, multifamily stuff, it takes a lot longer because they have to raise the capital and it's years before they get return on that stuff. So we have to kind of manage that growth with that. But the value per their client and how much it costs to rank these keywords is nothing. But it's the same generally with realtors as well. You sell one house, you take home $8,000 or something. It's like, how many leads do we need to generate to pay for our services is not much. Where if we're working with an e-commerce website, it's like, man, we got to sell a lot of blue widgets that,
So that's true. It's the value per client. In fact, that's something realtors don't always know their own metrics on, is their value per client. And I don't mean value per lead. I mean value per closed transaction, because that's the actual dollars that filter into your bank account. So Kris, if you had one piece of advice you'd leave with the audience when they're going through, besides the fact that we're going to include your review link in the show notes for this episode. So don't worry, friends, you'll have plenty of ways to reach out to Kris and make some inquiries on your own. What's the one thing you'd like them to walk away from this episode thinking about?
Yeah, think about really building yourself a business. I struggled a long time. I built myself a job, be a software engineer, and then I kind of started playing around. And suddenly I had this job that I have to work 7 days a week and could never take a holiday, and it sucked. And I read a book called Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz, which is about how to build a business that doesn't revolve around you. And now that's what I have. I can now go on holidays. The business grows without me. I get to do the bits that I like. I got an assistant that handles all the admin stuff that I'm not great at. Now I have a business that works for me, and I'm not stressed all the time, and it's great. And if you're a realtor, you should be focusing on doing your realtor stuff. You should have a way that gives you consistent leads. You should know how much each lead's worth, how much it costs you to close each deal. And then you can just scale it to the moon.
All right. So I've got a new book recommendation for myself that I'll be picking up here. And friends, you should probably message me, because we might even do a little book club and discuss putting Clockwork into effect. And Kris, thank you so much for staying up late Vietnam time to spend a few minutes with us on the podcast. All of Kris's contact information is, of course, in the show notes for this episode, and hope you'll reach out and ask anything that you have. But I appreciate you sharing your expertise and dropping us some really big knowledge here this morning.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. We'll see. Oh, there, I hear the little people coming. So have that last sip, and we'll see you sometime. Okay, now don't forget to go try Follow Up Boss so that your business can continue to expand in professionalism, and then you can meet some more crazy people yourself. I really appreciate Follow Up Boss sponsoring this episode, but mainly I appreciate them for giving y'all double the free trial time with no credit card required. So make sure you go to followupboss.com/crazy, and then let me know what you think. I'll see you guys next time.
As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.